Flippin' heck. We're not going down that route. We've categorically said we're not doing grand designs. Shut up.
You ready?
Okay.
My burning question.
What's that?
That's what I'm starting with. My burning questions.
Oh. Hey folks, welcome to the channel. Today it's a bit of a Q&A. We're going to catch up on all the questions we've been getting for the past few weeks, all about the cabin. Because there's a lot of unknowns and we probably haven't explained everything, so we're going to try and dig into that now. So if you're looking for a tool, on the tool action today, just sit back, relax, and wait for next week.
And just listen, because there's not going to be a huge amount of...
all the questions get fired in without people watching the whole videos as normal. So we'll try and answer them anyway. Okay.
So Chris asked, my burning questions are, 1, did you know Maggie had potential sheepdog skills when you bought her?
It's meant to be about the cabin. All right. No, she's not. She's a hunting...
Light-hearted.
She's a hunting dog breed.
It's not meant to be under her breed name, is it? But
no, she's doing all right. She's a retriever by nature / truffle hunting is what they're used for now.
Yeah.
She's an Italian dog.
But this one is a question everyone will want to know the answer to, and it's one that everyone asks me constantly. Can you guess what it is?
When are you going to be in it?
Yes. What is the target date for moving into your bespoke trailer home? May 2022.
Well, the goal moves because we can't live in it. Well, we'll talk about this later on in this video, but we can't live in it anyway yet. So we've kind of been pausing, spending time getting the farm sorted, doing other things to the buildings, basically getting distracted. But yeah, there's no reason why it can't be done in 4 to 6 weeks.
I love the fact this is on here.
If we were like flat out and throw money at it and time at it, but there's too much other stuff to get distracted by. Anyway, long story short, it won't be until earliest November until we could live in it anyway. So, yeah, it's not what you want to hear, is it? For Christmas, Christmas would be great. I'm gonna have to change. I'm gonna have to change the balance, white balance. It's simply impossible.
But could we just take off?
We're going to go black and white. Let's go stylish. This whole video is going to be in black and white from now. Because it's so green and so blue in here that you cannot correct it in white balance. We'd have to bring in video lights. Right, next question. Something more positive, please.
Are you going to be building your main house yourself or using contractors?
Mixture. A lot of it. Well, we don't know quite yet, but... as hands-on as we can be, but some of it will be built off-site.
We've got to be realistic, because we will have a time limit.
Yeah, and it'll possibly, it's a big building, so much of it will be built off-site. Well, not that much of it, but some of the wall systems will be built off-site.
Ross is interested to know how they're going to be separated to be able to move them. I mean, they're technically not joined together at the moment at all anyway,
No, there's
a
couple of G-clamps holding the chassis together, that's it. So everything you see is simply
just
butted together. I don't think, well, hopefully we haven't shot a screw through into the other side. That'd be like a nightmare.
Find out.
No, so they are pretty much independent as they are. We can separate them in a couple of ways. One is to use specialised kit, which I haven't even found anywhere in this country yet. I'm sure it is used, but it's where you sit the chassis on sort of a couple of tracks and then it's brought out sideways, and the same when you were pairing them back together, because it's almost impossible to just bring them in parallel. So you need to do that sideways movement at some point. When there was nothing on here, we could have used dollies under the wheels and things like that, but now there's no chance of that. So I happened to stumble across a YouTube video where it's like tracks they pushed in, but I don't have a clue really.
Well, there's not. He was just asking
how will they separate.
He wasn't asking.
There's
how
a join line.
Them, so
they are on two halves. You're gonna ask me how to move them now, aren't you?
Okay. You say you're going to tape the joints of OSB. Did you consider using cork? Seems like it would be easier and create a better seal.
No, it's not an ordinary tape. Let me get some.
Gaffer.
No, it's not gaffer tape.
No, it's called Gapper, isn't it?
No, the Gappo tape is for insulation.
Oh, sorry.
This is the product. I can't remember who makes it, but it's basically a high airtight acrylic pressure adhesive. So it's rolled on, and that's what's used mainly for like SIPs and things like that. So it's designed for OSB and certain membranes. I think, I guess you could cork it. It'd be pretty messy. You could cork them as you put them together, but you'd probably still want to use tape. Just across the fields from us, there's a self-build, and he's just used SIPs, and he said he started out with this, and then the nail holes, they just used foil tape, like, we've used on insulation in the past between kingspan, which is really sticky stuff, and it sticks to most things, and they just use that over nail holes. Nail holes are not that leaky, but, you want to make sure they're covered anyway, and their air test came back good, so I don't know, I can't remember how many rolls of this we bought. It's not cheap, but it should be enough. And also remember, we've got to tape our roof membrane, our vapor barrier, to the wall. And then we've already corked between the floor and the walls, but it might make sense to run a bead down there. So a mixture of the two, but this stuff should do the job.
Do you plan on having any electrics in the ceiling? It looks like they are more or less closed up at this point. Yeah, we do.
No, they're not closed up because the batten's below the vapor barrier, so first fix can go in. Although it's sagged a little bit between the membrane, between the battens, there's still space there to run first fix on the lower side. That's the whole idea. Those counter battens will create that void. Any lighting, we haven't really decided because we've got full height ceiling. We've
decided on whether we're going to have pendants and stuff, aren't we? But we're not going to have that many, especially out here.
Well, if it's in ceiling lights, we'll have to use them in a very, very low profile in ceiling LED. And I think it'll be fine because there's a bit of an air gap above. I'll need to look into it a bit more. But first fix is all planned out. It's just a case of us getting the last few bits in on the internal stud work between rooms, and then James will come in and get all that in. So he's planned everything out. He knows what he's doing on that side of things. The only thing we haven't done yet is all of the OSB. We've been getting so much grief, haven't we? You field the emails of you've forgotten to put first fix in.
Yeah.
We have to we're putting battens over all this OSB, so just 600 sensors probably, and then everything can be put in there. It means that there's no perforations going through the OSB, through membranes, through vapor barriers. It's all on that warm side, all on the room side of the air barrier, air tightness layer.
Do you have CAD drawings?
Nope. SketchUp. We designed it all in SketchUp.
Be great to see a couple of cross sections to the floor, wall, and roof constructions, which would be able to do on SketchUp. No. And how you maintain a continuous insulation vapor barrier.
It's not that high spec. I mean, it's bloody
a
high
picture
spec
is
for a
sometimes
caravan.
better than a verbal explanation, which I think is probably true.
Yeah, we've used SketchUp enough in the videos in the past that you get an idea of how the structure of it is there. From an insulation point of view, we didn't really show that on the. You're getting bored on construction talk. We didn't really show insulation on the SketchUp drawings simply because it was all between studs and outside the studs. Didn't really change how we built it. If you look through the videos, you'll get an idea, but it's basically full fill insulation, sheep's wool between the studs, OSB on the inside, which is our strength, that's stopping any racking, and then wood fiberboard on the outside. Normally OSB is put on the outside, but there's no reason why it can't be used on the inside. It becomes a better build-up in that the OSB gives you your kind of substructure to your wall. It's an air tightness layer to an extent, and then all of our insulation can be put outside of the stud walls. So there's been, while we're on that, the difference between the easiest thing for us to have done, which we contemplated for a while, is SIPs. Yeah. Which would have been quicker. Would have been about 2 videos, so you would have got less videos out of it. But there's some downsides to SIPs. They are expensive, but in the whole scheme of things, if you count your time into it, they're a saver as well. Yeah. Obviously, they're made of horrible stuff, and
not very environmental, are they?
No,
and also we've done SIPs with the cabin, with the workshop.
Yeah,
so we
metal
to look at different
SIPs,
options for when we do the big build, didn't we? So
and we know that they work really well, and it was all external, the frame, and it.
Yeah.
We know
the pros and cons.
We did have SIPs made up a SIPS quotation made up for this, but they wanted to use timbers rather than the insulated spleens. Is it a spline? Spline or a spleen? Spleen is in your body, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
But I don't
spline.
think spline sounds right.
The joining pieces, which join two SIPs together, for when we had the design done, they wanted to use
another word for it.
solid timbers there. So it wasn't like you had a completely thermally broken insulation layer anyway. There were quite a number of vertical studs to carry the roof load. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't knock SIPs completely, but we wanted to be a bit more hands-on, and we wanted the opportunity to be able to use the insulation inside the wall that we wanted to use. And in this case, it was sheep's wool and wood fibre, so we could keep things breathable. And that also means that there's less chance condensation and less need for ventilation within the building. But we'll talk about that another day.
Is the plan to have the cabin finished by winter? Yes, but when's the definition of winter? That will be what Tim says. Could be January. February. I know. And what's the plan for the main house build? And I think we'll say we're going to wait until we've actually got planning approved, because that changes.
Yeah.
It? But it's going to be 2 floors, and it's going to be.
We've gone into it much more in Patreon videos, and I think there is an update video going out on Patreon soon.
This week.
This week on the on where we are with that. Basically, planning's going through now. We had to iron out a load of stuff in the first round, and we basically asked for. Well, we left it to be refused, simply because one, an appeal would have been drawn out. With withdrawing it didn't really help, because they weren't actually letting on everything, all the issues that they had problems with. All of them were completely they're kind of non-points, and any other county in the country probably wouldn't have been an issue. But we've ironed those bits out now. Everyone seems happy. We just got to kind of ride through the process. So it's going to be at least 2 months. But as soon as that happens, then we'll be able to start work on that, which means we can live in this. I think there was a question today. Shall I go into it now? Permitted development?
No.
You don't want me to go into it, or you haven't seen it?
No, I don't want to go into it.
Basically, the question was, on a farm, do you have the same permitted development rights as a house?
Yeah, I saw that question.
Did that really bore you?
Only because I think I know the answer.
Yeah, you probably do.
Because
Sat through
this
enough
is
planning these things.
agricultural. That's why we need the planning to change this to domestic use, so we can actually live here. Because that's why we can't live here without the planning.
Pretty much. I mean, basically, if this was a garden to a farmhouse, then we could stick this cabin, or even bigger, and live in it.
Yeah.
No problem. As long as we were, it was our house, or we were related immediately to the family in the house. Anyway.
This is agricultural.
Because it's agricultural, yeah. So if you're the basics of it is, if you live in a typical house that still has its permitted development rights, you can put up a shed, you can do a side extension, you can do a rear extension. There's all sort of caveats within those, and size issues and things like that. But there's a lot of stuff you can do, loft conversions, conservatories, things like that. We don't have any of that here. We do have the equivalent. So if you have a farm or land of a certain size, then you have permitted development rights, but they're kind of agricultural. So if you want to put in a new barn, or a hard standing, or a track, or other livestock related things, you can do that. You normally have to notify and ride through a series of weeks to make sure it's okay. But some of those minor bits you can actually just go ahead and do if you know you're doing them right. What you need to wait for is one of those permitted developments is Class Q, which is what we're going to use for one of the barns. And that, we obviously have to wait for the 7 or 8 weeks to basically get that approved. It's basically saying, there's no problems. You're going to the council and saying, we're going to do this. This is why, this is how. You need to tell us why we can't
do it.
You're not asking for permission as such. So rather than a full app, but you have to tick all those boxes, and we've got things like listed buildings nearby, bats, all that sort of stuff, and everything just gets complicated. Well, we have to put in mitigation things for the bats, and even though it's a steel frame building and they're not living in there, but they're around. anyway, you've just got to go through the motions, and so it will be quicker.
Get out the other side.
Quicker than a full app, but anyway. So that is one of the things that we are using from permitted development, and the other option is to use class. I think it's class M. It's basically converting an agricultural building into business use for like an office or something. But anyway.
Okay.
Bored yet? Dog's bored.
I know the question I'm really looking forward to asking, which isn't in this list.
Okay.
I'm going to wait.
Come on, go on, get into some interior stuff, because people are asking about the ceilings.
Are you going to put any floor ventilation in, like a normal air vent?
Yeah, no.
Ventilation?
I don't think there's any need. And we're trying to make it fairly airtight anyway. No,
Apart
everything's
from-
breathable from underneath, so it's going down. Apart from what?
No. That's my question. That's going to be my question.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because it's going to be the loo hole holder. The loo holder.
What?
The
Do you want the
toilet
dog
bowl
flap?
holder. It's going to be like that again, where I was totally fine and everyone agreed with me. I don't think anyone
The
suggested
dog flap is the most stupid idea ever.
No, the dog flap is something
No,
that I just assumed that
maybe
we would
from
want
a porch in the future.
in the cabin.
But no, because you
So let's
if you
hear
can get through
Tenzing's
it,
argument. What?
I could fit through a dog flap.
It won't be as big as Maggie's not a big dog. So
Doesn't
it
matter.
needs to
I
be
could
a
get
big
through a
dog.
dog flap. I would
Well,
rob this
again,
place. Look,
would love to see that happen.
honestly,
But
no, you cannot have a dog flap. Just open the door.
no, the amount of time she isn't trained. We have the dog.
What do you mean she isn't trained? She doesn't go to the toilet in the house.
Yeah,
she
she
just
does.
doesn't bark or woof or.
She does.
No, she
And
doesn't.
even if she doesn't, I don't really want a dog barking. I don't really want a dog going
She
to the
doesn't.
door when
She
she needs
doesn't
to go
bark.
out.
Why not?
I don't want to get up.
Why have you got a dog then?
Umpteen times.
Why have you got a dog?
Because
You don't want to get up
I
and
want
open the
to
door.
make my husband happy.
Rubbish.
And she's going to make me fit. You know?
No, I am
There's only
cutting
many
this
reasons
out.
to having a dog.
No.
We are keeping this in, and I need your support. Joe needs you.
It is the worst
To
idea
say,
you've had in a long time.
Obviously, every dog owner wants a dog flap. That's what I need you to say, okay?
No.
We've got a dog.
Like, even a cat flap's stupid.
Why?
Well, there is absolutely no way a dog flap or a
means you
cat
have
flap's
to
going to
have a litter
get
tray.
into that house in the future.
Let's go back to the less serious questions, because I've already asked my most serious question.
No, ask me the most serious one.
Yeah. Will you ever do Airbnb or similar on the farm? That's me. I'll do this one. So we had thought about it with the cabin, and we still might. You never know.
This?
Yeah, but we probably
Nah.
will sell it because it's a lot more money.
Or take it down?
Take it apart.
Yeah, I've done it in a way that I could take it all apart, salvage everything out of it.
Yeah, but it's all the interiors too.
Yeah.
No, I think.
I know, if we couldn't physically get it down the lane,
Yeah. I guess
Then-
we do want to make.
it's not like we've used spray foam.
We
or
have got another
cut
few
later.
outbuildings that we might want to make into an Airbnb, which is like fixed.
I don't know, I think Airbnb is a
But, I
bit.
mean, okay, but
accommodation.
Accommodation for
Yeah.
could be long-term let or a work hand on the farm or someone who does editing.
Oh, yeah.
Apply here.
Yeah, so there are other buildings we could convert, and
we
we
could
have
reuse
enough
this
materials
stuff.
in this. You know,
Yeah.
things like the sheep's wool, we haven't cut anything. Everything could just be rolled out. I mean, it'd be a bit depressing to take it apart, but equally it'd be kind of a nice full circle.
Yeah, maybe.
Most of it I've done in a way.
It
Apart
would
from
be
the
a
flooring,
good
it's the only thing that wouldn't really
Cash
come up
injection,
easy.
though, wouldn't it? And you know,
Yeah, if we could get
it's
it out.
always.
Yeah. But it's too big to just reposition somewhere on the farm and put on Airbnb. I'm not really a fan of that, I don't think. Chicken house, though. Make a great chicken house, wouldn't it?
I did not hear that. When are you going to move in on site? I think we've already answered that one. Who knows?
I mean, we basically live here anyway.
Sorry if this seems silly, but how will this building split down to transport out once it's finished? I can't figure that out. Like we've already said, it's already split, so they would go down the motorway or whatever on two separate bits,
Yeah, if it
wouldn't
was transported
If it
on
was-
a road.
Yeah, we
It was
won't
basically
need to for us, but-
the same vehicle that delivered the chassis takes them back, onto
Yeah.
the back. So the big question, which is the weight question, we'll cover in a minute. But yeah,
Are you going to hardwire in the smoke alarm?
Yeah.
So that it can get past.
For what?
For an Airbnb, or I guess even just to sell the cabin, we probably want it, wouldn't we?
I just do it because it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm living in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. First fix, just get everything wired in.
But
Carbon monoxide alarm.
I think he was implying a certain time of fire resistance, 30 minutes, and an escape plan for the occupants. But again, there's enough doors or windows big enough.
Airbnb, but there is a lot of rubbish on Airbnb, which is not fire safe.
Yeah, well,
I don't think that's the thing.
That
No, I would. I mean, I'm putting my children in it. I think which is another reason why a lot of garden rooms and things like that, they're using thin plywood for the walls, wall coverings, and painting that, or for the same for the ceiling. And I'm pretty sure I've read somewhere where I don't think it can be more than 30 or 40% of your wall covering or ceiling covering can be wood. But I don't really get that because so many people do ply, unless they're using intrumescent clear varnishes or something. But you see people with like birch plywood walls, don't you, and exposed OSB. So I need to look into that a bit, because ceilings is one thing. Well, it's a big talking point at the moment because it's our next stage, and that you want plasterboard, which makes sense because we're trying to make it feel like a house.
Ceilings, someone suggested.
Yeah, I never even heard of that. Someone mentioned that this morning. Stretch ceilings. I think they're like a thin stretch fabric, so they're super lightweight, but I'm not sure they'd work. They might work in here where it's a big ceiling, but I've not really come across them before. But hang on, just on that ceiling, I mentioned in the last video going for a thin plasterboard or a lightweight plasterboard, but even at 600 centimeters, a couple of people have said they might sag or crack. That's a fair point, which is why I was reserved about it. So I think we need to look back at... What are you doing with your hair?
Sorry.
It's really weird for other people, just so you know. So we might have to look back
at... endearing?
Yeah. So we might have to look back at panelling for the ceiling.
Okay.
Did you hear what I just said?
I don't like panelling for ceilings.
I know, but we might have to.
Yeah, okay. Well, if we have to, we have to.
We'll paint it white.
Chris has asked, how do you prevent updraft from the floor once the frames are fixed permanently?
From where? Oh, maybe the gap? There's a small gap running down the open plan area. There's going to be an expanding tape on the sides. If that's the only gap in the floor, so I can only think he means that.
I think this is the one we've already kind of answered already from Nick, who would like to know a bit more about planning permissions for farms. Are there permitted development rules the same as for householders?
Yeah, that's kind of the one I saw.
Buildings.
Yeah.
We've done that one, haven't we? By Christmas Eve, we'll move in? Question marks. Yeah, thanks. Oscars.
I mean, we're blessed in that there's no crazy panic rush. You know, we've moved out of the old house.
I don't know that, Tim. There might be a crazy rush.
Why? Flipping heck. We're not going down that route. We've categorically said we're not doing grand designs. We're not living in a static caravan, and we're not having unexpected children.
Let it go on a bit longer.
Okay. Yeah, now would not be the time or the place.
And then someone else said, did I miss something? Who is the dude who keeps appearing in videos?
Oh, that's your replacement, isn't it? Craig's been putting the couple into restoration couple. Well, during the school holidays, I've lost my wing woman. So Craig's been helping out.
Woman.
Craig's actually a photographer, so he's like in the past when I was able to work on the house lots. He's got the same sort of thing. So kind of one-off big shoots, a load of editing, but then kind of gaps in between, or just flexible hours. So he offered to come and give me a hand, and he's been doing a couple of days a week.
It's been good.
Really good, because some of this actually I would have done it myself, but it would have been a struggle.
Especially in the heat. And it's been nice for you to have someone to work with too. Like, he's not
talking to myself so much, am I?
He doesn't talk back as much either.
Yeah.
Might actually care about what you're saying a bit more.
True, he has genuine interest. Anyway, yeah, so Craig's been helping, and also Tom's done a couple of days. Tom is local to here, and he's a chippy, so he gave us a hand on a couple of days, which has been great. We got an email this morning. Did you see that message about what have you done? You've told everyone that you're not there.
Oh, yeah.
We actually did get a break after the last video I mentioned, or in the last video I mentioned that we were trying to get the roof on so we could go away. And then the second half of that video, I was back. So, it's not always live. We're about 2 weeks off, I think, on the video. Or maybe a week, actually, a week and a half. So yeah, we had been away for a few days. We had people here all the time watching the place, but
and looking after the animals.
So a few people, like I've mentioned that in the past, but no, we don't ever post when we're away or while we're away. So there were a few videos. I think the truck videos we'd scheduled, so they were coming out while we were away. But no, we are essentially here 24, well, not 24/7, 27, and next door here all the time. So yeah, it's something we've always got to keep in the back of our mind, but pretty hot on it.
You asked me a question about the interior then.
Yeah. No, we have had questions, mainly on the ceiling, but we kind of said plasterboard's potentially going to be too heavy. We will look at other things. All the lightweight stuff look like caravan boards, they're like vinyl covered, which we want to avoid. And we were trying to avoid tongue and groove ceilings, but we might have to revisit that.
Yeah. You were looking at when we were at Disneyland. We were in a little cabin.
I've got some video of that.
It might look better than just our faces.
I am so cool. I filmed
He's so cool. He got
underneath
there and
the
he's
cabin.
like, oh, let's have a look. Let's see how this is done.
So we stayed in this like Centre Park style bit outside Disneyland, and it has basically 2-bedroom bungalows, they call them, but they're just like cabin, chalet things in the woods, and they're put on chassis in the same way because there's so many trees around, they don't need foundations or anything, but they are really light. I mean, the walls are about 50mm thick, probably just polystyrene, vinyl siding on the vinyl kind of cladding on the outside, and on the inside it's just plastic paneling.
Yeah.
And then roof's probably the same, and underneath I couldn't really make it out, but it looks like some sort of BPS polystyrene underneath between the chassis. So I mean, it's not that different, the climate. They must get pretty cold. They're just very inefficient. Anyway, they would be very light.
It did have air conditioning, didn't it?
Yeah.
So it must be fairly efficient because it kept the cold in and it kept the heat in, didn't it?
No, but it doesn't mean it's efficient, though.
No, I guess no. You're right.
Because it could be that it's overheating.
One
so that's
thing
why
we were talking about, which is interior, is flooring. Tim's quite keen to put the flooring under all the walls, put the flooring down first.
Which is what they did in that.
Which is what they did. But I don't like it because I think if we put it down first, then it's just going to get wrecked while we do all the lights and all the windows,
We can do them before, I guess. My main thinking is that
do the walls,
one, if we want to move
paint,
if we want to repurpose the building somehow in the future, we leave the option then to move our walls around. I guess you'd then have holes. I don't know. I think it'd be damn sight easier to have 100 square meters. If we're doing LVT, it can just all go down in one hit all the way through. No doors to cut around, architraves to cut around. It could be just really super quick. I don't know if you need an expansion gap on LVT. I can't imagine you do if it's fully bonded to the floor. So maybe someone else out there would know.
Oh, we need candles. Oh, we need food.
Shut up.
Go outside and do it so you can see what.
Go far away, girls.
Think, we need some spoons for the jelly. What toys could you bring for the jelly goo? The gel bath stuff.
What else, interior-wise? Kitchen, we've pretty much designed in our heads, at least, how we want that to work. It's going to be mainly floor-to-ceiling kind of wall units and integrated everything on one side, and then pretty open, no wall units on the rest.
It's going to be like Christmas, getting all of our stuff out of storage, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Everything's just packed in there. A lot of stuff we thought, we'll have that out by May.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff is half boxes open because we're trying to find certain things.
It's going to feel like new, isn't it? Walls, I think we are going to batten and plasterboard. I don't think there's any other options there really, although we could panel certain areas if we want it to be a bit different. But I think it's just the ceiling we need to try and shave a bit of weight on. It's easy to say put 12.5 or even 15mm plasterboard up there, but over 100 square metres, that's 1.2 tons or more, and that's just the ceilings, and then you've got the walls. And we haven't even touched on weight yet, because that's the biggest question. How much have I lost? No,
How much? Like
they are rated. Don't be nightmares. They've rated these chassis at over. I think 10 tons was what it was, but then we've got 4 axles on each, so it's over that. So 10 tons is per chassis is easily okay, but I don't really want to be anywhere near that. That's pretty heavy, especially because they're so big and long. But I mean, from a support point of view, once they're sighted, concrete piers underneath or the stands that we've got is going nowhere. It's not like it's sat on the axles all the time. So it's only really from the transport perspective, we don't want it to be too heavy. But it's not your average shepherd tyre, is it? I'm not sure we'll be reversing this around the corner with the Volvo.
We give it a good go.
I don't want to be anywhere near it.
No.
I'm going to tie it to the dumper at one end, even while they're moving it. Just be like, I do not want this going down into the brook.
No.
Heating has been asked about, but not recently. But it's worth talking about now because people can tell us we're being silly. We are going to go all electric. Yes. Plus a wood burner. So hopefully that's going to do a lot of the work. So we're going to use simple electric radiators in all the rooms, probably on a smart system, which we're talking to a company about at the moment. So that's, timed and Wi-Fi and thermostats anyway. Really low wattage stuff. We've just maxed out on the insulation, so really the heat load should be minimal. We've also made sure that, we've also got really small rooms, so naturally they're going to be a bit easier to heat when needed. But the aim is to
We've got hot kids.
The aim is to have like a central area, which is where we are now, which is going to be the main bit to heat is this.
Log burner and infrared.
Everything's naturally, it hasn't got to go upstairs, it's going to be a fairly even building to heat anyway. We've got infrared heating going into the ceiling. I think we're looking at a collaboration there where heating mats. Again, it's more of an experiment to see how they work and if we want to use them in the main building. So there's a lot of stuff that if we were going to use it in the main house, which would probably be about 10 times more surface area to cover, we don't want to find out we don't really like it or we don't think it works properly for what we need.
Boiler.
Yeah, like the biomass, which was like all in.
Brilliant. It sounded amazing. And then it was.
And then there was 3 hellish years messing around with biomass, which has its place, but it wasn't where we lived. So again, here it's a bit of an experiment. I think it's going to be a great option here. All low power electric heating, so it's not crazy amounts of what's being used, but I want to make sure it works before we use it in bigger other builds. But all of that will be supplemented by a wood burner because what do we have here? A lot of wood. So it makes sense to use what we've got, and that will naturally heat a lot of the cabin anyway. But the idea is to use some mechanical ventilation, but more like a single unit VHR. So rather than having ins and outs and ducts everywhere in between each rooms, which we would do in the future, in here, single unit, just to make sure that the air there's a good air change in here, but breathable walls, vents where needed. I think there's no issues there. So again, a bit more experimenting there and learning as we go. Windows. We've got the windows. They won't be too far behind. We bought them in February, didn't we? When we were freezing in that cottage.
So productive.
So they're just sat in the barn. I think we even featured them arriving in a video. I'm not going to put them in yet because we can crack on and get other more important stuff done. Roof's got to go on soon. Again, that's just sat there ready. Roof, there's a few people saying metal roof. What are you thinking? It's going to be deafening at night. I kind of hope it's not.
Is that it? Is that what we've got to go off?
We've got 450 millimetres or 400 mil of wool between us and it. 2 big air gaps.
It's a heavy gauge. Thankful that we're on the inside.
It's a heavy gauge steel, and it's got a felt lining underneath it for an anti-con lining. And we used that in the shed at the last house, and it was nothing like a tin roof where you hear like really loud, like a pig arc or something like that. Plus, we're going to have a ceiling. underneath. So it's like about 5 different densities of material. This end might be a bit different, but again, it's going to have a really snugly fit PIR. So hopefully not going to be an issue. The alternatives would have been Onduline, Coralline, you know, the stinky bitumen stuff, which is kind of more suited to stables and sheds. We could have used Metro tile, you know, that metal tile that Mum and Dad have got on their barn in the corner.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, looks like a roof tile because it's
next
textured
time.
on top. I like those, but I kind of just like the idea of a sheet material. It's really much quicker to install, and it's going to match in with the barns and look more at home here on the farm. And finally, the biggie, which is cost. How are we doing on our budget?
We're over.
Oh, what do you mean we're over? I was just about to say we haven't even looked. Are we over?
I looked, didn't I?
I don't think we're over.
That was including the first chassis debacle.
Ah, yes. The little crumpet. Forgot about that.
I know, I do.
This should be a standalone video, just me.
Letting it go.
People need to just buy a No Crumpets mug just in solidarity with the absolute shambles. Anyway, Joe's done an amazing effort on the legal side of things with bailiffs and county court, high court. We didn't get anywhere. Nowhere. The
Well,
little
because he's
scumbag has
gone into liquidation.
well,
so
he's going that way, and there's
He
just
has-
nothing.
so we
Still
can't-
running a business.
No,
Still,
he's not there though.
still
so
no,
you
exactly.
Can't, and it,
Still
according
making
to the
bloody
courts, you
chassis somewhere else.
can't go to his home and get anything of his
Even
personal
though
because it's it's
limited
a
company.
limited company, and you can't go to any other place of work unless it's under the same name.
Which it won't be
his
because he's
new place of
liquidated.
work
I don't know how he
is-
can set up a new company.
know.
Surely you can. Anyway, so he's a director of another company up in Kidderminster making mobile, park homes, and
Yeah.
still operating out of that.
Yeah.
Flair. Anyway, nothing we can do apparently.
We will
He charged us
report to the
VAT.
police,
We've got to I don't know. I don't know what the next steps are. We had so many really kind offers of advice and people who are actually in the industry of, or someone who ran a charity actually on fraud and stuff. Because at the end of the day, we'd been told it was coming on those 6 or 7 delivery dates. I was driving 4-hour round trips to come up here to meet him.
And we found out
And he charges VAT.
That
So
there
is
are
that
other
VAT
people-
fraud, probably?
around the same time as us who must have been done too, because it says there are multiple claims.
Well, I think they probably got him first on the claiming. I bet. Joe's just headed out with the girls to go and get sorted. We've got a party here tomorrow for Faith, so lots of admin going on. But I just wanted to finish because we didn't really do an outro. That the whole losing money thing, or having money taken. You hear all these horror stories of builders going AWOL with people's money and all this sort of stuff. It has such an impact, way more than just losing a build budget. And I kind of just tried to. I felt a bit embarrassed right early on when it happened because maybe we could have checked more. But we went to a company's house and we checked some reviews and seemed legit. Bizarrely, even the company, the proper big nice company who made our chassis, had some good things to say about this guy. Apparently it was, he was okay at what he did, and they'd worked with him in the past, but it had all gone horribly wrong in the last year. But it just goes so much deeper than just losing that percentage of your build budget. It gets to a point where you're falling out over it. Joe and I are both kind of in agreement on all the various sides. We see it from the same point of view. Like, we were very adamant early on, we didn't want to start just mentioning and slagging him off on social media or anything like that. And I think we gave him endless opportunities to actually follow through and get the thing made. We even, when he told us after 6 attempts he hadn't even started building them, we said, yeah, right, well, at least you've been honest. When are they going to get here? And he said Monday, and we were like, okay, well, at least there's a dialogue here, and you're being honest. Well, none of that actually paid off. So sometimes you're like, well, maybe we should have just been absolute nasty crumpets right at the beginning. And I don't want to be. I'm not that sort of customer anyway. But it's put a kind of a bad light on future dealings with other companies. You know, having to say, look, we've had this problem in the past. Can we put a percentage of it on a credit card so we're covered? Or can you take photos and show us that it's being made, and all this sort of stuff, which you shouldn't have to do that. But maybe we should be glad it happened on a minor thing right at the beginning, not something that held up a build halfway through. But it's still a lot of money, £8,500. It's a huge percentage of this build because it's a budget small build. But it's also, it's our own money. You know, it's not company money, it's not a client's money, it's that they were just our savings from, you know, months of working, and we got nothing for it. He didn't start the job and walk. He didn't, you know, buy half the materials and then leave the job site, or it was simply a case of we got nothing, absolutely nothing, but being put behind by 2 months, and we're about £1,000 down now on legal fees and bailiffs and all that sort of stuff. It's infuriating, and what's worse is the fact that he's still in business. Still, you know, I think the actual company that he had is no longer, well, it's not been dissolved yet, but there's a number of strike-off things going on, and so there's nothing to be claimed there. But he's still got 2 companies that are running within his household or whatever, and he's still a director and a shareholder of this, you know, big leisure home company, which annoyingly, stupidly, when we got screwed over with the chassis, I then went ahead and started inquiring to find someone to make them. And I went to this place, I think it's Kidderminster. And I have to look back at the emails. I bet I was chatting to the same bloke, because they were like, yeah, we can do that. And like, maybe it wasn't the same guy, but he's certainly involved in that company. Well, we'll have to draw a line in the sand, I think. But maybe there are things we could have done differently. But Joe did so much work towards it, finding out what we needed to do, who we needed to talk to, the different types of bailiffs and debt collectors and all that sort of nonsense. But unfortunately, it didn't get us anywhere. But we learn. Anyway, on to brighter things. The cabin is looking okay now. It's a mess in there and need a good tidy up, but hopefully this week we'll see the roof go on and we can really get moving on the inside, because, you know, once the roof's on, there is a certain amount of, and breathe, because the weather will turn. Obviously this wall behind me is lacking a little bit. One of the reasons why we haven't done it quite yet is because we've got a window to go in on the left-hand half and nothing here. We were contemplating moving the window across to this side, so I was going to cut into these studs, frame out a window and put a second patio door in. We decided against that, and we're going to go back to our original plan, because what we do need in an open plan area is walls. If you put glazing in every single wall around the outside of it, you've got nowhere to put furniture, you've got nowhere to put shelves, TV, fire. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you to Joe for guiding us through all the questions. Hopefully that's answered most of them. We do have a bunch of farm questions that we kind of canned up, and we'll maybe do a Farm Friday Q&A. So if you've got anything on that side of things, any questions, then leave them down in the comments below. But there we go. Any advice from any of those ramblings, do stick them down in the comments below. We are looking to try and get the ceiling decision sorted soon. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.